Perfect. Hello, everyone. My name is Ariel. I'm part of the Careers and Professional Development team here at WGU. Welcome and thank you all so much for joining us here today. We're excited to kick off today's information session about WGU Insurance Brokerage, the Insurance Brokerage Apprenticeship in partnership with Jobs for the Future and the Council Foundation. Today's session will give you an inside look at this unique opportunity, which combines full-time paid employment, dedicated time during the work week for your WGU coursework, hands-on experience in the insurance industry, and a 2-year full tuition scholarship. We'll also walk through the application process and what to expect. In the second half of the session, we'll be joined by Jill Rand, a WGU career advisor who will share practical resume tips and best practices to help you submit a strong application. Feel free again to submit any questions that you have in the chat so that we can address them at the end of the presentation. And with that, I'm pleased to turn it over to Joyce Milling, Lead Apprenticeship Program Manager here at WGU, to introduce Maria.
Hi, everyone. I am so thrilled that you all are here. We're excited to see the student interest in this program. When Maria approached us a little while ago with this opportunity, we were thrilled to be a part of it because we know this is the intersection between working and learning and earning. And this is ideal for folks to really get started in a career path. So we are very excited to be a part of this and glad to have this opportunity offered to WGU students. So thank you very much for this and excited to see so much interest. And I would love to introduce Maria. She comes to us from JFF and she can tell you a little bit more about her background and this exciting opportunity while you continue to pursue your education at WGU. So Maria, take it away.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Joyce, Ariel, and Jill. Really appreciate you making time. And to all of our night owls, I'm learning the lingo. Thank you for making time to join us. We wanted to make sure that we gave you time to join if you needed a little bit of later afternoon time. But I'm excited to walk you through a little bit about the apprenticeship, the opportunity, and then dig into your questions. Faye, I see it. And I'm going to get to it, but I want to make sure that I cover some of the basics first. So let me share my screen and I'll talk you through, but please add questions as you go along so that I can make sure to cover them. So I work at Jobs for the Future, and a lot of our mission and vision is to provide opportunities for advancement for people from all different backgrounds, and really thinking about access to quality jobs. So jobs that pay family sustaining wages, that promote wellness, belonging, that provide flexibility. And so when we were approached by the Council Foundation and the group of insurance brokerage employers and firms that wanted to do an apprenticeship, we were so thrilled to do this. So let me walk you through a little bit about the program, and then we can go into questions. So let's start with, what is an apprenticeship? I always start there because there's a lot of different terminology and expectations. Apprenticeship is a job from day one. It is full-time employment plus. So unlike internships where you're kind of, it's like dating, you go, you take a look, you see whether or not you want to have another date. This is much more like engagement. You're signing on and this is the career pathway that you want to pursue. And the employer is making that commitment in you and investing in you, and you are investing in this pathway. So it is a job that combines real work experience and structured learning to lead to industry recognized credentials and career advancement. So it's really an earn and learn model. And from what I've learned of WGU, many of you are already doing that. But oftentimes while we're working through college, we're doing college and working at places that might not align with where you want to go. Part of what I love about this is you're learning in the industry that you're going to pursue as your career. So it allows you a leg up. So there's 5 components in every apprenticeship. It's a paid job. There's wages, and there's a commitment from the employer that you will get wage increases as part of, as you build new skills, get new learning, you get raises. There's work-based learning. There's got to be at least 1 year. Our program is a 2-year full-time employee where you're going to be working full-time while you're doing this. It has classroom learning. We've embedded both industry recognized credentials and a WGU degree. We've set up a dual mentorship model where you get not just the WGU mentor who is going to guide you through your academic journey, but also a mentor on the job who's going to help you with navigating the workplace, learning the industry, and making sure that you're growing as you do the work. And then a set of credentials that are really going to position you for future advancement. So when we say apprenticeship, these are the 5 components that we mean. Let me dig into it a little bit more. But before that, I wanted to get to why insurance brokerage. So I'm a therapist. I came into workforce development, but I really wanted to understand before we started building programs for people in this industry. Are there going to be career pathways? What's going to be the advancement? What are the wages? Are there enough roles? And we did our homework, and the homework says this is a great opportunity, but most of us don't know what insurance brokerage is. But basically, if you look at retirements, this is a industry that has what we're calling a silver tsunami. So there's a lot of folks that are retiring and continuing to retire. So they're hungry for new talent who can learn the ropes and advance. The projected growth, it has been steady, and particularly last year, as a lot of nonprofits were struggling with losing funding and a lot of instability, I actually went to their summit, and financially they were able to stay steady, consistent, and growing. So it's a stable industry, which quite frankly, for somebody who's been working nonprofit is really fantastic to hear. And then in terms of career mobility, at this point, I've talked to maybe 20 to 30 chief human resources officers in a bunch of different member firms. And every single one of them, I ask, what's your career pathway look like? And all of them are able to tell me, so I expect you to start here, spend 1 to 2 years doing deep learning, advance to the next role, advance to the next role, advance to the next role. And they have those roles planned out. So unlike a lot of other industries where you see there's entry-level roles and then there's the unattainable jobs over there that you can't really advance to, this one has really deliberately set it up so that there's pathways and clear steps for you to advance. So the apprenticeship program starts you at the entry-level role with the goal of having you advance. Some of the member firms that we talked to were even like, do we have to keep them at that same position for 2 whole years? That's a long time for somebody to not advance. My answer was clearly, yes, please advance them. We'll just keep also doing the academic portion of the work. So again, really unique industry. So with that, I'm going to stop for a minute and share a quick, what is insurance brokerage? We've determined that as a therapist, we probably wanted a different voice in explaining what this industry looks like. So let me share briefly, and then we'll keep talking.
Insurance is this, but it's so much more. Commercial insurance connects everything. It supports growth, crops, construction, concerts, creativity. Hyperbole? Nope, it's the truth. Think of it this way. If we don't have insurance, how would businesses take on risk? One wrong move, one bad storm, and everything you built is gone. It's the tool that helps you overcome risk to get things off the ground and flourish. Insurance enables our world. So, insurance is old, like super old. Babylonia's Code of Hammurabi protected that from robbers. In the Middle Ages, protected guilds and fueled trade. But in the 1600s, the action at Lloyd's Coffee House in London created modern insurance. It was the place to get information about shipping. Then it became the place to protect ships and cargo. Insurance grew with the world. The Industrial Revolution, mass production, cars, planes, and health, it played a huge role in our lives. It even protects satellites and Springsteen's voice. Now, it adapts to evolving issues like cyber attacks, climate change, or cannabis. Insurance mitigates and transfers risk. It provides financial protection for your business, your neighbors, and your family. It's stability, peace of mind, empowerment. Think about what that means for the world. People can launch ideas. You can take on risk to grow. That means more people working, more opportunity, from mom and pops to global organizations. By itself, insurance is a $1.8 trillion industry, about the entire economy of Mexico or most of Canada. But when there's pain or loss, insurance is there to help. Take Hurricane Katrina. Costly, deadly. Families and businesses received $62 billion to fix the damage, 1.7 million claims. And whether it's hurricanes, wildfires, earthquakes, or the unexpected, risk turns into reality. Insurance is there, keeping its promise, helping people rebuild their lives. That's not boring stuff. It's a powerful call to action for the 2.7 million people that work in insurance. Risk managers, brokers, claims advocates, customer service reps, scientists, data analysts, the list goes on. Every day they solve problems in every industry under the sun. They think about and plan for how to respond when bad stuff happens. In agriculture, hospitality, transportation, healthcare, construction, space, entertainment, interest in something else, there's insurance for that. Insurance allows people to prosper, thrive, and yes, recover at your lowest moments. Whether you're rebuilding something or starting something new, it requires hard work and dedication, and investment. And while investments come with risk, innovation is the reward. With insurance, it makes it a little bit easier to turn an idea into reality, and that can change your life or change the world.
Okay. So I hope that example kind of helped you think about what it means. Let me then talk a little bit about what are the roles that we're looking at. I'll say that we've got primarily 3 different sets of roles that we're hiring for. The first one is employee benefits track. An employee benefits track is not the HR person who's telling you what insurance to get at your job, but imagine WGU, who has to provide insurance to all their staff, or Starbucks, who has 18,000 employees in how many states, right? They have to figure out what's the package that we're going to give to our employees and what's going to fit for people who are part-timers versus full-timers, all of those types of pieces. So there's going to be a team that's going to have a very senior level producer, as well as a core team of support staff that are going to help prepare that specific set of proposals so that Starbucks can look and see, like, Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, this other provider, who's the right fit. And so part of the role, it's not a sales knocking on door moment. It's much more of a preparing the package that's going to meet the needs and being able to understand. So if you have an employer who has employees in 15 states, the proposal has to look different than an employer who works exclusively in Massachusetts or Utah, right? So that's employee benefits roles. And those usually are called benefits specialists, but they come in a lot of flavors. The second set of roles are considered property and casualty. And those are, think about WGU setting up their brand new campus in DC. They need insurance for that, right? And they have properties in Utah, and they have all this cybersecurity stuff. Who does WGU go to get coverage for all of those different pieces? they go to insurance brokers who are going to help them with that. So those roles tend to be associate account managers, but they come again in many different flavors. To answer your question, I believe it was L in the chat. Each job description is slightly unique, but what is shared across all of them is that there's an expectation that part of your job is to also do the academic portion. So the employer is paying for you to do school, and your progress in school is going to now be a part of your job description. So the third set of roles, and this one is newer, is wholesale brokerage. And don't think BJ's and Costco. I want you to think global warming. So have you heard of how folks in Florida are having trouble getting insurance for their houses because the frequency of floods is really increasing? You're going to go to a wholesale brokerage. If you're thinking about Taylor Swift's vocal cords, you're going to go to a wholesale brokerage. These are more of the specialty, much more unique and high risk insurers. And again, you're going to provide this customized supports in order to create the right coverage package for the client. And in every single one of them, part of what I've loved is they have multiple folks on the team so that there's a team approach to doing this, but there's multiple levels of staff who are learning with each other, and their goal is to give you more exposure. So the entry level role, you might be doing more administrative roles, but your job is to learn the lingo, learn the packages, learn the industry, and then proceed to advance. Every single one of these brokerage firms are really deliberate in providing you high level onboarding to make sure that you learn the industry. I've already given you a preview. The program is a 2-year program. You're working full-time. You're getting dual mentorship, WGU mentor, workplace mentor. You're earning your WGU degree, and you're getting industry designation, which is going to be either professional employee benefits consultant or professional risk consultant. They're going to also pay for you to get your licensure in your state. And you're also going to get an AI certificate. So we really wanted to build this not just for you to be able to do that job well, but to be able to advance professionally and have the skills that it takes to grow in the industry. So what does it look like? So you're here with me, which means you've probably done some reading and done a little bit of due diligence. What we're doing is we're sharing that online course. We encourage you to go through it, learn more about the program, have a moment to figure out, is this a fit for me? Am I ready to change jobs? Is this an industry that I want to work in? Does this align with where I'm at in my personal and professional lives, right? And then if you submit the interest form, you're going to end up meeting with my colleague, Sydney, who will spend one-on-one time having a conversation just to make sure that you are aware, on board, prepared. We are going to encourage you to connect with your career services superheroes. I've been so impressed. I learned some stuff about how I need to fix my resume from Jill last time. So I really want you to spend some time with them. They're going to help you prepare your cover letter and your resume, and she's going to tell you more about how to do that later. But please make sure you polish up your applications, because we created the program, but you need to get yourself in. And to do that, you need your resume, your cover letter, and your interview ready persona to be ready for showtime. And then I'm going to get to that, Jael. And then once you've met with Sydney, she will get you what is the position that is available for you in your city. Which gets me to Jael's question. Here's where I've got positions right now. I have a position in Windsor, Connecticut, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Dallas, Texas, Denver, Colorado, Horsham, Pennsylvania, and Atlanta. They have offices in Noonan and Alpharetta. Every single one of these employers requires you to either be in the office 5 days a week or in the office hybrid. It depends on each of the member firms. So once you talk to Sydney and you say like, hey, I'm in Noonan, we can then be like, okay, Noonan, they want you to not be in person or be hybrid. So that conversation you can have with Sydney. I will say, just because I want to make sure that there's clarity, each employer sets their entry requirements. For Atlanta, we've got 2 employers. One who is looking for a very specific person. They want somebody who can speak Korean, because they have a strong amount of, I'm going to have one wholesale position in Atlanta, and I'm also going to have one property and casualty role for somebody who is Korean speaking, which is going to be hard to find. But if you happen to be a very, very rare unicorn, let me know. So we have 2 employers in Atlanta. So that's where we've got folks. I will say I have been meeting in, okay, let me do this for all of you. Windsor, property casualty. Tulsa, Oklahoma, property casualty. Dallas, Texas, property casualty. Denver, Colorado, property casualty. Horsham, PA, property casualty. Atlanta, 1 property casualty / Korean language, and 1 property casualty wholesaler. So that's a list of all the things. And I will tell you, I'm also working with employers coming on board for January. So don't get discouraged. Please submit your intent to apply. And if you say I'm interested, we can keep you as we add more employers. I've got 5 more that are in the wings. And I believe, I don't know if I read this correctly, Tiana, the webinar gets posted to the Career Services YouTube, so you should be able to see that. But I think, Jill, if you could help me by putting that in the chat, because if she can't hear me, I just answered a question in vain. Thank you. All right, so let's say that you got hired. You're going to start in September. If you need to take a brief pause on academic work in order to get onboarded, we are prepared to support that. Once you start the program, they have heavy duty onboarding for the first month, sometimes up to 3 months, because they want you to learn the industry. The WGU team will help you figure out like what is the course sequence that you need to take and how do we make sure that all that you've done is credited and so on. So that is Joyce's department. And you will receive scholarship for the 2 years of programming that the program lasts. So as long as you are doing well academically and doing well in school, the Council Foundation will provide you a full scholarship that will include your WGU tuition, and the employer will pay for you to get your industry designation and your licensure. I'm gonna get back to the chat. You guys are getting excited. Degrees and designations. So here's what you walk out the door after the end of 2 years. 2 years of awesome work experience and you got paid. Industry foundation. So there's a certificate that was designed by an insurance brokerage that is really about setting you up from 3 perspectives for success. 1, tech stack. We want to make sure that you are prepared for all the fun that you're going to need. 1, customer service skills, and that was 2. And 3, it talks a lot about industry foundations. So that's the first designation that you're going to get. The second one is your WGU degree. The third one is you're going to get that PRC or PEBZ designation, as well as licensure in most of these roles. And then we were mindful that AI is doing things to our world, and we don't know exactly how it's going to hit every industry. But what we do know is that people who have AI skills are going to be poised to thrive moving forward. So we embedded that AI certificate because we wanted to make sure that you were prepared to respond. So I covered the scholarship and the thing. Here's the one benefit that I forgot to mention. In addition to the dual mentorship, the scholarship, and everything else, these employers are also committing to 1 hour a day or 5 hours a week to pay for you to do schoolwork. So if you're working a regular 40-hour week, 5 of those hours are separated apart for you to do your academic work. So you're getting paid to study. You will still probably have to do more than 5 hours a week because WGU says usually 10 to 20 hours for you to progress through your degree, right? But I'm pretty sure nobody else is getting paid to do their schoolwork yet. So this is pretty significant. So let's see. So who should apply? Thanks, Joyce. I needed that. So who should apply? We are really looking for folks that want to grow into this new industry, and somebody who's ready to do, like I think many of you are, both academic work and work together, because this is a commitment. You all know this. You've been invested in yourselves in this way. And then somebody who's really motivated. Somebody really sharp last time asked me, what is the ideal candidate? I've talked to these employers a lot, and the thing that they always tell me is we need these folks that have this combination of they're great with attention to detail, and they're also great at this customer service engagement problem solving skills. So many of you, I think I saw somebody in real estate, half the job is knowing how to work with people, hear deeply, come up with creative solutions, and engage them through that process. So I think really thinking about what are my current roles? And I think that like from real estate to McDonald's, there's a lot of that interpersonal work and problem solving and engaging. So really think about what are the transferable skills that you can bring from your experience thus far, and how do you communicate that not just in your resume, but in your interview. Jill, sorry, I'm stealing some of your thunder. So that's the who should apply. So how to apply. I think I referenced this earlier because I got excited. Thank you for joining today. Complete the online course. You might see a few extra details. Once you're done with that, prepare for the application process. Did I mention that you've got some amazing folks at Career Services? Please get access to their services. They're going to help you prepare so much better. Get another pair of eyes on your resume. Get another pair of eyes on your cover letter. Maybe do a little bit of a prep interview just so that you can be really fluent and ready. And then submit the intent to apply form. Sydney will have a conversation with you, make sure that we're all set, and send you over to the employers. They'll go through the interview process with you. So I'm gonna say we are aiming to hire folks for a September start date. So we would love for you guys to get on this and get on this quickly. It's a pretty unique and amazing opportunity, I think. So I want to make sure that we get you in the door. So please submit your form, meet with Sydney, and get going, because it's going to be really amazing. Can somebody help me with what
Yes.
questions I may have missed?
Maria, you bet. So, two things I'm seeing is there was a question about if they finished their bachelor's degree before the 2 year scholarship, if they could continue on in a master's program and apply the scholarship to the master's program.
That's so cool. I'm gonna say I will have to check with our funder to verify that that is a possibility. We are expecting that there's some folks that might be so close to graduation that you might need a little extra time to do the industry designations and so on. But I'm going to check back with our funder and see if we can get a yes to that. Sorry, I don't have an answer yet.
All good. And then another outstanding question was just a clarification on the position in Georgia, the wholesale P&C position. Is that one located in Alpharetta?
No, that one's in Atlanta proper.
Okay, thank you. Did y'all see anything else I missed? I think those were the big questions I saw remaining.
Yeah, I think you answered the others in the chat.
We actually had a student email in earlier, and I flagged it for this conversation. She just wanted to clarify that her accounting degree was okay, like that was an acceptable pathway. She wouldn't have to give that up.
So the WGU team will meet with you. We found folks that are interested from finance, HR, marketing, business administration, even healthcare business administration. I think I may have butchered the title of that one, but like we're really interested in making sure that you have the foundations to succeed in this industry. So we'll make sure that you get like that CSR certificate that gives you the industry foundations. We'll make sure that you get the designations. We definitely want you to get the AI certificate, but we're willing to be somewhat flexible in terms of like, we don't want you to start over in your degree. If you've already gone down this path, we want you to be successful. Nobody needs 2 bachelors. This is not what it's about. It's really about like, what are the specific courses and materials that are going to prepare you to be successful? And if you graduate with, I don't know, a degree in a bachelor's in finance plus the professional risk consultant certification and the brokerage licensure for the specific state, then congratulations.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for that.
That's a good question.
Yes, I'm happy to talk that through. I'm actually going to pull up, I have notes so that I can give you actual title examples. So, all right. So career progression. For most of them, their most senior role is called a producer role, and producer roles tend to be and again, guys, I'm a therapist, so this is really hard for me to conceptualize, but their producer role tends to be what they call private jet money, which I don't even understand. But usually there's like about 3 roles before you get to producer. There's some people who want that senior level type of private jet money and producer, but there's a few extra sides that you can go down. So for some folks who might prefer the let's see, the underwriting side of the house where you're doing much more of that detailed contract work, that could be an alternate pathway. So there's a few different pathways and it varies slightly. So one of my employers, you start out as a client advocate. They see it as a 6 months trainee phase where they want you to start speaking the language. And in 6 months, they're going to say, awesome, that's great. Let's move you to a client manager. And once you've done client manager, you stay in that role for 1 to 2 years before going into client executive, which is more going to be like that 2 to 4 year before you progress. I'm going to give you another example. So I have one that starts at benefit specialists. And just then you move into senior benefit specialist, and then you end up in account relationship manager. Let's see, I'm giving you examples. And again, it depends a little bit based on, okay, so there's another one, client services coordinator. Is that like entry level role? They say usually 18 months. Then you get to associate account manager, which they say they expect you to be there for about 2 years. Then you get to account manager, where you stay like 3 to 5 years, and then there's producer. So like they have like pretty clearly articulated pathways, which I was really impressed by. And of course, they're very deliberate about having wages align with that. Any other questions? That's a great question. I think that it's going to depend on you and the work. Most of these firms, again, coming from nonprofit world, were really generous in how they think about this, and they really were focused on skills based. So quite a few of them, even though I started with like, here's what do the competencies look like, most of them were like, no, we have our own competencies. If you meet these competencies, you advance faster. The goal is not time and seat, which echoes a lot of WGU feels. It's not time and seat, but skill and outcomes. So I think that if you've had prior insurance financial services experience, if you learn the lingo quickly and demonstrate it through your work, I think that advancement is quite attainable. As a fun story, I had one of them who they have to set their wage progression. So they commit to, you start at one wage, then you increase at the end of year one, and then you increase at program completion. And I was like, I need to know what those progressions are going to look like, because paperwork. And one of them was like, but what if we give them a bonus? Is that okay? And I was like, yes, please do that. So these are organizations that are really get that recognition, and financial recognition are a thing that matters in how you keep employed. Exactly. See, you get it, Octavia. So anyways, as somebody I've worked in healthcare and manufacturing and IT and all of these different industries. It has been really amazing to see how they invest in their employees. And part of it is because of how they're financially structured, they have the resources to do that. But I've been so pleasantly impressed by how the HR leadership thinks about talent and growth. And it makes me feel good to recruit people, because it's the kind of environment that I would hope for my kid to go into when she's ready for work. Yes, please. Submit your interest form, Smith. Okay.
Okay, well,
I will stay back. And you all have the proper link so that you can take the course and have time with Sydney, or you can message me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to have a chat. But we really, really are excited about this opportunity. And thank you so much, Ariel and team, for coordinating. We are so excited.
thank you so much, Maria, and thank you all for such engaging questions in the chat. We really appreciate that. And if you have any questions that come up after this session, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll make sure that we get those questions answered. With that, I'll pass it over to Jill to share some resume tips.
All right, let me go ahead and get this started. Okay, so resume best practices. kind of an agenda for our last little bit of time here. We're going to talk through applicant tracking systems. We've got a sample resume to look through. And then we're going to take a look at some of those transferable skills from the apprenticeship description. So I think it's helpful to start by kind of diving into what happens to your resume after you hit apply. And most likely you are going to submit your resume to an applicant tracking system or an ATS. About 99% of all Fortune 500 companies use applicant tracking systems. So highly likely for this opportunity and beyond that you'll be working with an applicant tracking system. This is the software that employers use to manage their recruitment and hiring, and it serves as the first round of review for your resume and cover letter. And what it does is it takes a look at the keywords and skills from the job description, and then it uses algorithms that scan for those exact keywords in your resume. And then it assigns a score based on how well your resume matches the job description. And from that, then recruiters decide based on those scores and kind of the range of scores that they have in their applicant pool, who they want to actually take a look at. So you can imagine then if your resume is not customized and it doesn't have a strong match rate, a recruiter, a human recruiter, may not even look at it. So there are sort of two critical points I like to flag, because when people hear this, they're like, oh my goodness, okay, customization. Yes, absolutely customization. But there's actually something else even more basic that can trip you up that I like to flag for folks. While applicant tracking systems are quite convenient for recruiters, they have some real limitations. They are notoriously bad at handling most style and formatting elements. So anything that's more intricate or fancier than like a plain bullet point runs the risk of tripping up the ATS. So things like colors, columns, tables, text boxes, a border around your document, any sort of icon can all be unreadable to an applicant tracking system, which may mean, for example, if your skills list is in a text box, it may just skip that and you won't get any credit for the skills listed, which might really affect your match rate. So we recommend, unless you are like physically handing a copy to someone, a clean, plain Word document that ensures readability for the applicant tracking system and is a nice, easy read for the recruiter as well. I have seen, my first question whenever someone comes to me and says, I have applied to hundreds of jobs I know I am qualified for, and I'm getting nothing. It is almost always either like a formatting style issue or a customization issue. It might be as simple as having a border around your document, and if the ATS can't parse that, then it will read that as a blank document and just discard it. So boring is great in this case. That way it's not distracting to the recruiter and it gets through that ATS. The customization piece is really critical for both the ATS and the recruiter. You don't want to have the recruiter is moving very quickly as well. So you don't want them to have to infer or, kind of read deeply between the lines. You want to have those skills and keywords from the job description clear, easy to read. You want that really relevant content to just jump off the page, because on average, it's about 6 to 10 seconds per resume in that initial review for the recruiter. And that's if they decide to look at that given resume based on the match rate. And there have been studies done where you can actually track the eye movements of recruiters when they're reviewing resumes. And they found that recruiters tend to scan down the edges of the page and focus more on the top. So they'll look at, things like name and location, but then they'll very quickly move to scanning, titles, job titles, degree titles, and then start dates or graduation dates. So that's why we often recommend, bolding things like job titles and degree titles, having your dates on the right edge of the page, So that way it just kind of matches their expectations and what their eyes are kind of habitually doing anyway, and making it just all the easier for a recruiter to see how your experience aligns with the job, and helps them more quickly move you into the interview pile. You can upload a Word document. You can also, if you would prefer, convert it to a PDF and submit a PDF. Most applicant tracking systems take both equally well. For resume review purposes, for our team, we ask for Word documents so that we can add comments and it's easier to make edits. So we tend to recommend working in Word, and then if you would like to change the format to a PDF, totally fine. So I thought I would just walk through a sample resume to give you some highlights. Obviously, you want name and contact up at the top, name and contact information. Your full street address is not necessary. You can include city and state. I think that's really helpful for this opportunity since they are very much location-based. I would recommend doing that. You also want to include, of course, your phone, your email, and if you would like a recruiter to look you up on LinkedIn, go ahead and include the URL for your LinkedIn profile. We recommend including the full URL. You can just start with the www part because many applicant tracking systems remove hyperlinks. And so that allows the recruiter to copy and paste and still access your profile. The first section may be a professional summary for you. This is optional. It sounds like we've got some folks who have insurance experience. So for these folks, I would say absolutely include a professional summary because it's a chance for you to take the most relevant pieces of your entire resume and sort of package them into a single snapshot up at the top. So if you can incorporate keywords, relevant experience, if you have relevant certifications, those are excellent to showcase up at the top because it's a hook for the recruiter and makes them want to keep reading. If you're a career changer or just getting started, it might be really hard to come up with 3 to 5 lines of kind of above the fold, highly relevant summary statements. And that's okay. It's okay to omit that and have the next section either be your professional experience or your education section. If you can write really substantive content for your summary, great. If it feels like it's like pulling teeth or it feels like it's all fluff and it's just adding length to your resume, don't feel like you have to include it. What comes next on your resume very much depends on what's most relevant. So if you have insurance experience or something that's highly related, maybe you've done some account management or relationship management, you may want to put your professional experience next. If you're, again, maybe just starting out or making a pretty big career shift, it may make more sense to have your education be the next section. It's whatever is sort of the strongest next piece. So we'll talk professional experience here. Like I said, we recommend bolding your title because that's the thing that's most descriptive of what you did. And then dates, again, on the right edge. You can do an optional 1 to 2 line kind of summary describing your role or the business if the company or the job title are kind of hard to understand. If your job title really didn't match or clearly describe what you were doing, it can be helpful sometimes to give a sentence or two context, but that's very optional. The main thing you want to focus on are these bullet points. Each bullet point should start with an action verb describing what you did, and then you want to include basically the skills or tools that you used, and then the outcome or the result of your work. So if you think about like an interview prep, I don't know if folks have heard about the STAR method, situation, task, action, result. It's sort of an outline for how to answer questions with a story. Very similar sort of setup here for your bullet points so that you're connecting your actions, your skill set, and what you have achieved. So you've got some examples here. Analyze statistical data to increase production by 20% and reduce compliance issues by 35%. So started with a verb, tells you what you did, tells us what the result was. Those numbers are awesome. If you can quantify your experience, whether it's concrete results, whether it's numbers of teammates, number of clients, number of customers served in an hour. There are lots of ways, or in a shift, I should say, lots of ways to quantify your work if you don't have those concrete metrics in terms of your outcome. But it really helps wherever you can quantify your experience. It lends credibility. So you've got some evidence in there of your impact. And also just human nature, our eye is drawn to numbers, percentages, dollar signs. So it also creates an engaging read for the recruiter. You want to work from most recent to least recent, so your current or most recent past job, and then working backwards from there. Typically, no more than 10 years is necessary to include on your resume in terms of how far back to go. If you don't have 10 years of professional experience, or maybe there's, you've had a gap here and there, that's okay. It doesn't have to be up to 10 years, but if you've got, 15 or 20 years, that can kind of help you bound it a little bit. You may want to include additional experience. It's, again, totally optional. It's this would be great if you have volunteer experience. This could be also an academic project, organized very much the same way as you format a job title or a job entry. So job title or volunteer title, organization, and then a couple of bullet points describing what you did. Your education section, like I said, it could be above professional experience, it could be below. Just depends on kind of what works for you. Also working backwards from most recent to least recent. So your current degree first, and then any previous degrees if they are relevant. You want to bold your degree title, include your expected graduation month and year. No need to include start date. That just can add confusion for recruiters. And then you can include a list of relevant courses, so 3 to 5 course titles. And then if you've done a project, if you want to include it under the degree, that's certainly an option. You can also include it as a separate section. There's some flexibility in terms of what works for you, what kind of flows the best. For the most part, we recommend, certainly no more than 2 pages for your resume. That's if you have, really substantive experience. If you don't have a ton of relevant experience, again, maybe earlier point in your career, that's okay. We recommend it would probably then be a page. So somewhere between 1 to 2 pages. If you go over to that second page because you have such good content that's relevant for the role, just play with your spacing and your margins to make sure that that second page has at least a third of a page of text on it. That's just for kind of professional appearance and to avoid anybody accidentally missing that second page. So a couple of do's and don'ts before we kind of dive into some specifics from the apprenticeship. I recommend titling your document with your name and the employer name or the job title. That just makes everybody's life easier and helps you avoid attaching the wrong materials to the position application. We recommend a sans serif font. So like the font on this slide, none of the extra little serifs, the little squiggles. So like the lowercase t doesn't have a little tail at the end. It just makes it a little bit easier to read. Of course, consistent formatting, like be sure to take a look. We can talk resume reviews. I know I'm coming up on time, but I'm happy to hang out for an extra couple minutes if folks have time to talk through resume review process. But just take an extra look at things. Reach out to our team to have another set of eyes on your resume, just to make sure that all that formatting, spacing, font, all of that is consistent. And then customize to the role, of course. No need to include references or references available on request. Like I said, avoid any of those style or formatting elements that can trip up an ATS. We recommend no smaller font than 10-point font and at least half-inch margins. I used to do quite a bit of hiring of graduate students, and I would spend all day looking at resumes. And when I opened one that had no margin and like 6-point font, I mean, it would literally push me back in my seat to be like, oh, God, okay, let me clean my glasses and figure this out. You want it to be inviting and easy to read. You want the recruiter to want to spend time with your resume. So just keep that in mind. So what's wonderful, and Maria already touched on this a little bit, is many of the key skills for success in this apprenticeship are transferable skills. So it is that relationship building, customer service, communication, problem solving. What's wonderful is you can develop those skills in a variety of contexts. And therefore you can incorporate them throughout your resume, whether it's a related work experience or whether, it was a part-time job that you had kind of on the side while you were, raising a family, going to school. I used to work at a traditional brick and mortar institution, and I would work with the students that were in were the baristas in the cafe on campus, and they'd be like, well, I'm not putting that on my resume. I'm not doing this forever. I'm like, oh, but let's talk about your customer service and your communication and your problem solving when it's 8 a.m. on finals week and there's a line out the door, and how you handle the disgruntled customer and all of those things, how you work with your teammates. You can showcase these skills in a variety of types of roles and volunteer work even. So I will pause there and just give a quick plug. You have access to premium job scan through your WGU account. Everybody, students and alumni, have access to it. It is an AI resume, cover letter, LinkedIn, one-stop shop. So if you share the position description and your resume, it will give you a review and a match rate, and then it will give you feedback on ways you can increase your match rate. And you can actually see your score change live as you're making edits. What's also cool is if you share the job description and your resume, it will draft a cover letter for you. I say draft very intentionally. It is bare bones. It is a bare bones start of a cover letter. So don't just submit it as is. Use that as a starting point to build on it, make it your own. I find it easier to edit than create from scratch. So at least it's a starting point. And then it can also, if you share multiple job descriptions with it, it will also review and optimize your LinkedIn profile for your target role. So I am going to pause here, stop sharing. I'm going to pop some links in the chat because I mentioned, oh, thank you so much. Link to JobScan Ariel. You're so on top of it. I will also grab our just our resume page. So you can find downloadable templates on this page as well. So if you're worried about ATS friendliness, feel free to download one of those. You can copy and paste your content in, and those are all ATS friendly and should not pose an issue. I'm gonna pause there and see if are there any questions?
I see one from Chris about point of contact for next steps. Maria, do you want to take that one?
Oh, sure. So as part of the invitation, you guys received a link to the online course. Once you submit your interest, Sydney will be in touch with you. Her information is also in there, and you can then receive that. Once you met with her, she can send over the link for you to apply. Most of the firms have their own online application process. And so you'll get those links directly. And just as an FYI, what we're trying to do is to avoid having you apply for the job that is across the country from where you live. So part of Sydney's role is making sure that she matches people with positions that they are a fit to, that they can commute to, and so on. So that's why we're having that sort of triaging happen. Because again, nobody wants to go through the process of customizing your resume and taking that draft cover letter and revising it and submitting it to then be like, but you have to commute to 700 miles. So like we're trying to be really intentional around making sure that you apply to the right role.
Awesome. That makes sense. Thank you so much. Right, well, it looks like we are at time. If anyone has any follow-up questions, again, please reach out to me. I know I had a couple of students email some questions before this session. So thank you all again for your engagement and for your participation in this session. Huge thank you to Maria, Jill, and Joyce. Appreciate you all for sharing your time and for sharing more information about the insurance brokerage internship. And we appreciate your commitment to really creating such meaningful opportunities for our students. We will send you a recording of this session along with all the resources and information that was mentioned during this session, and encourage you to complete the exploration course and application as soon as possible because, again, spots are limited. Thank you all again for being here. We wish you the best of luck in your application process and throughout your career journey. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.